Greetings, fellow acolytes of the Force, and welcome back to the Archives, my friends. The Sith have often plagued the galaxy in one way or another for tons of thousands of years. The Sith species was widely speculated by natural historians of the New Republic era and even the Old Republic to be hundreds of thousands of years old, with some even speculating they date back to the dawn of time, and then being a literal creation of Typho Gem as well as the Father of Shadows, two amoral and exceptionally formidable dark side entities. The Sith purebloods managed to engineer a great many devices and artifacts imbued with dark side energy, which they use in a myriad of ways in order, but not limited to manipulate the very forces of nature or to augment connection to the dark side. However, today we are going to be exploring and excavating the tombs of the ancient lords to discover 10 of these powerful artifacts, imbued with the very essence of the dark side, like the Sith species was. My friends, let us proceed. Let us join this edition in the archives, and let us break down 10 exceptionally lethal and dangerous Sith artifacts that the Jedi would never use. Starting off with our list, we have his holocron of none other than legendary Dark Lord Darth Nihilus. Stated by Nariel Prudence that it was a Sith holocron created centuries ago by Nihilus. Darth Nihilus' holocron was a Sith holocron made by Nihilus during his reign and tenure as a Dark Lord. During the Cold War, the Sith Vanna Rosette attempted to lay claim to this artifact at the Light Spring on Tatooine, whilst Jedi Nariel Prudence attempted to prevent her from retrieving the ancient relic of darkside energy. By 137 ABY, the holocron had fallen into the hands of the One Sith organization. I can personally speculate that Darth Wylock, the current lore master and historian for the Sith at the time and Krait's most trusted advisor, found this holocron and attempted to use its teachings in order to heal the Yuzong Vongros expanding within Krait. He used it to contact the Sith Lord on Korriban, tapping into the innermost roots of the dark side in order to commune with this ancient Sith Lord. Nihilus, though, only muttered in ancient Sith speak in fluent basic. Nihilus, however, regardless of this, would only curse at Krait, similarly to Bane and Andedu, calling him a pretender and a hypocrite of the Sith ideology. Moving on, we have decided to place Sith Poison, one of the more eccentric and devastating portions of the Star Wars galaxy. Sith Poison was originally pioneered by the ancient Sith purebloods on the planet of Korriban thousands of years before the Dark Jedi exiles ever arrived there. Sith Poison was a biological toxin and a product of Sith alchemy, and that when absorbed in sufficient quantity, multiplied the rage felt by a person, and if a Sith, augmented their connection to the dark side. In action with more of the disease, taking up residence in the victim's body, and setting off chemical reactions that rapidly diminish the victim's ability to resist the pull of the dark side. Satal Kito injected Ulic Qel-Droma with his Sith poison, ultimately pushing Ulic the final step he needed to into the dark side. This poison could be devastatingly fatal unless counteracted by strong Jedi powers, and even then, its everlasting effects were likely to remain, a hideous reminder of the terrifying power that this one Sith artifact described. Sith poison could be either ingested or administered by medical means, usually via sinrage. Both of these methods brought a much shorter reaction time upon the victim, and it could even be directly applied through the mucous membranes of an already exposed injury. After being introduced to the body, the poison is absorbed on a molecular level, feeding on the individual's rage and drawing them closer to the darkness. The individual's judgment will become less rational and harsh, and they eventually became so enraged that they begin to lash out involuntarily with the dark side, mercilessly. But now, the third issue we have on this list is going to be the Sith meditation sphere, the only chamber and artifact that was used by Darth Vader himself, Dark Lord of the Sith. Visas Ma was given a meditation chamber by Nihilus similar to Vader. A meditation chamber, or Quarabat in the ancient Sith, was a place where the Jedi or Sith could meditate to enhance their powers with the Force. The following passage from the book known as the Book of the Sith describes the meditation sphere's lethal powers. This Sith space-going vessel is not an amulet one can grasp or wear. It is an amulet that encompasses its possessor. The arcane geometrics of this vessel's cabin can amplify the passenger's spells 1,000-fold in every single direction. meaning that Darth Vader technically, if he was proficient in the art of Sith alchemy, could have had the capability in order to amplify his power while in the meditation chamber, in order to combat Darth Sidious. This is most likely why we can see in The Empire Strikes Back, while Vader is communing with Imperial officers within his meditation chamber, he is able to choke an Imperial officer while he was on an entirely different Star Destroyer. Not discounting Vader's power in the Force, I do believe this is the augmentation that Vader required. He also attempted to use this to heal the injury suffered on Mustafar, using the dark side energies focused within the chamber to seep into him. However, while he did succeed to some degree, his progress was minimal at best, as the joy he felt upon healing himself was banish the dark side, and return his body to its scarred state, and a puzzled Dark Lord was barely unable to survive. Next, my friends, we have the Yoke of Semen, a rather mysterious one. The Yoke of Semen was an ancient Sith artifact that predated the arrival of the Dark Jedi Exiles. Zozan, one of the ladies of the Sith alongside Source of Sin, Ajunta Pal, Remulus Draper, and Karnus Mur sees it for herself. It was said to be able to make one appear as anyone or anything, although it burned its flesh while doing it. Much later, Hazine, a Sith cyborg, acquired it and installed it as one of his cybernetic parts. It sufficiently increased his connection to the living force and allowed him to cloud other Jedi senses using the dark side, hiding his true schemes and intentions from them. In addition to clouding his intentions, the Yoke transmitted to all Force users the sense of himself that Hazine wished to convey. So while other Jedi could accurately see his true disfigured form, they would not react too viscerally to it, at his own preference. Hazine could also minimize its effects, as he did during a discussion with Lucien Dre, during which he wanted to convey revolution. It caused the living force to flow past and around the wearer, clouding his intentions and altering perception of him entirely, meaning the Yoke of Semen could be very handy for any Sith spy that intends to influence the Republic. The final holocron we have on this list is the holocron of Darth Andedu. The holocron of Heresis, also known as Darth Andedu's holocron, was a Sith holocron crafted by Dark Lord the Sith Darth Andedu. In addition to Andedu's lightsaber crystal, it most notably held the secret of transferring one's spirit into another's host. The holocron had the phrase, "In umbris potest est," written on it in Ouroboros, ancient Sith manuscripts. It was created thousands of years before 980 BBY, and was only discovered and destroyed in 137 ABY, when Darth Krayt attempted to commune with Andedu. However, Darth Krayt eventually lost his temper due to the fact that Darth Andedu, using his mastery of unique and eccentric rituals to be able to control Force illusions, was able to cause Krayt's Yuzong Von Gross to briefly overtake the Sith Lord. This angered Krayt, and Krayt banished Sith Lords Nihilus, Bane, and Andedu back into the depths of chaos. Next, we have the Sith Avatar. The Sith Avatar was a Sith amulet found by Source of Sin shortly after her arrival in Sith space. She used it to master the Sith language, both written and verbal. Millennia later, it was discovered on the planet Dathomir during the New Republic's reign. It was found on the Jedi training vessel Kuroth Unor, and was one of the many items stored on it, and one of the famous ones. The amulet center was surrounded by 6 triangular wedges made of an unknown material. The Sith Avatar was worn around the neck, crushing it in the dark side, and held in place by a thin silver chain. Upon donning the amulet, a heavy weight being placed on him or her despite the sole ties of the amulet. This Sith artifact allowed the wearer to communicate in any language, but prolonged use of the amulet weakened the wearer, eventually leading to death if not eternally removed. Swords of Sin also claimed that it attuned its wearer to the mad chattering of ghosts, meaning that if Naga Sadow had gained apprehension and acquired this, he would have been able to communicate with beings such as Marka Ragnos, Tulak Horde, and the ancient Dark Lords. Moving on, we have a double ranking, that being the Helm and Heart of Darth Kagrash. We'll run through these two pretty quick, as they are pretty interchangeable. Through the use of Sith magic and alchemy, the ancient Sith pure-blooded king Darth Kagrash managed to replace his own heart with a Force-sensitive crystal, later called the Heart of Grash. The Heart of Grash was made of the same material as the crystals within Sith Crysts that house the spirit of vanquished Jedi Masters. Within the heart were dark side spirits of thousands of long-dead Sith Lords. Grash used the heart to make himself almost invincible. Following the arrival of the Dark Jedi exiles on Korriban in 6900 BBY, the Jedi Source of Sin took an interest in studying a multiplicity of preserved Sith artifacts, recording her notes on the subject in her chronicle. This is the following statement that she made about the heart of Grash. The dead king, Darth Grash, replaced his own heart with this fist-sized ruby, which contained the souls of his foes. When paired with the helm of Grash, the wielder can control the forces of nature. Which brings us firmly onto this next institution in this double ranking. The helm of Darth Grash was a Sith amulet, an artifact presumably created by the Sith Lord Darth Grash. It amplified its wearer's abilities to wield the Force, and possibly strengthened the Sword of Leadless. It also caused atmospheric disturbances within a radius of 6 kilometers, causing ships to be torn out of the sky itself. In 3963 BBY, it was contained in the Jedi Covenant's secret storehouse on the planet Audrin. There was an ongoing experiment and extensive research at the orders of both Hazin and Krunda Dre. The helm of Darth Grash, when paired with its heart pair, could manipulate the very forces of nature, such as causing stalactites to drop, incurring earthquakes, or causing and perhaps manipulating solar flares very similar to the Sith Corsair with Naga Sadow. Now, we move on to a more mysterious one, that being the mask of ancient Sith Lord Tulak Horde. Tulak Horde's mask was a Sith amulet and artifact that belonged to the Sith Lord Tulak Horde. Gold-coloured, the mask consisted of 2 pieces on either side of the wearer's face that ran down from ear to chin, and it allowed those who were steeped in the dark side of the Force to move in secrecy, clouding and cushioning their presence in the Force, and allowing them to infiltrate the ranks of their most bitter enemies in the Jedi. The mask was discovered by the Sith Lord Darth Revan between 3960 and 3959 BBY, when he managed to pillage the tomb of Tulak Horde on the planet Korriban, along with a lot of other Sith knowledge, gaining access to a myriad of unique artifacts and powerful rituals. Now, we have the last one. Of course, we could not miss up an opportunity to talk about the Myrrh Talisman. The Myrrh Talisman was the first of 3 great amulets created by the Sith Lord Source of Sin, designed for a fellow Dark Lord Karnus Myrrh. The talisman had the capacity to turn every other beings into mindless thralls that were at the possessor's command, known as rat ghouls, which would turn the weak-willed into mere zombies and manifestations of the dark side to throw as hordes of enemies. It was a powerful object of great antiquity. It was mentioned in a multitude of Sith holocrons dating from before the Golden Age of the Sith as led by Marka Ragnos. At some time, the talisman was buried in the undercity of the planet Taris until 3965 BBY, when the Mandalorian Pulsifer led an excavation party to retrieve it. Upon its exposure, the talisman latched onto a female Jedi Master known as Celeste Morn and began to corrupt her before Jedi Padawan Zane Carrick sealed her and the talisman in Draper's Orbelay, where they both remained for about 4,000 years until it was discovered by Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker in 19 BBY. The Myrrh Talisman ultimately was destroyed, as when he attempted to get the body of Darth Krayt. The talisman had stayed on Celeste's neck for a very long time, even right into a trip into the deep core. She was determined to make sure the talisman possessed no one else. Thus, she eventually used its powers once again, when she joined Kane's Skywalker entourage to kill Darth Krayt. She turned many Imperials at the Had Abaddon base into Rakghouls to act as her bodyguard, while they waited for Myrrh. In the meantime, she played with the minds of her companions, giving Shadao Val a vision of him slaying Celeste and the talisman possessing him. Emperor Roan Fel desired the talisman to further his goals, but a few of his knights were losing faith in him. Eventually, Krayt took the bait and travelled to Had Abaddon, where his most trusted contemporaries and Sith Lords. The resulting battle saw the mortal wounding of Darth Krayt and the death of Celeste Morn, with Morn dead. The talisman latched itself to Cade Skywalker, but Cade proved to be above its influence, and used the Force to destroy it, and Myrrh forever resulting in the extinction of the Rakghouls, and the end of the Rakghoul Plague, as well as the imprint of Karnus Myrrh's ghostly apparition from over 7,000 years prior. So my acolytes, what did you think of this video and this breakdown on the most dangerous and hostile Sith artifacts to ever have existed? Sith artifacts are truly one of my favourite things in all of the lore, as they give us an insight into the most unique and powerful methods of the Dark Lords of the Sith, and how they truly augment their power on the dark side. Although we did not mention all of the artifacts, we have mentioned a lot, and we will be going over more excerpts in the Book of the Sith as time progresses. So, my friends, keep your wits about you. I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away, and kneel before the dragon of the Sith.